Welcome to Orlando Magic Live. I'm Charles King here with the Orlando Magic beat writer for the Orlando Sentinel, Josh Robbins. We're live on OrlandoSentinel.com and on Facebook. So if you're watching us on either of those, we appreciate you joining us. And the Magic have gotten off to a little bit of a rocky start. We're going to talk about that today, go through a little bit of the details about the players on the roster and how they're playing, and then we'll preview the upcoming games, including tonight's game at home against the Sacramento Kings. So Josh, you've been on the road with the team. Watched the team drop 2 out of 3 on the road, including the game against the 76ers that on Tuesday evening, the Magic were down 18 points at one point to the team that maybe not the worst team in the league this year, but has been the worst team in the league for some time. They did rally and win, but wow, it was not pretty.
I'm not talking to you.
What?
I'm not talking to you.
What's the matter, Josh?
Well, I've been away a week, and you don't even say, Josh, how have you been?
That's true.
How was your road trip?
I'm bad for that.
You don't even.
How was your? Let's start with that. How was your road trip, Josh? How was your time on the road?
It was very nice. Thanks for asking.
All right, good. Now about the Sixers.
Oh, about that game?
Yeah.
Well, it looked very bad for a large portion of the time. The Magic trailed 10-0 to begin the game. They came back. They fought back to 19-19. And then they slumped off again. So you're right. They were down by 18 points in the second quarter, but down by as many as 10 points in the fourth. They came back by, they were down 4 with a minute to go. They came back, and you're right. It was a nice ending to an overall generally poor performance, but the question that they face is, how much of this are growing pains and learning Frank Vogel's system, learning each other, which I think a large part of it is, and how much of it is just the quality of the team, which there are some very fair questions about whether this team can win half of its games, even when it does gel. So that's the question that they face.
I want to dive into that and maybe break down some of the details about this team and get your thoughts on each. Magic lost to the Pistons, an ugly game in Detroit. 108-82, then lost to the Cavs. We're down really bad to Cleveland. Made a second half rally to make that final score a little bit more respectable.
All true. The game against Cleveland, understandable. They had lost 14 consecutive regular season games to Cleveland, a streak that even predated LeBron James's return. And then the real disappointing game was the game the night before in Auburn Hills. Magic were just atrocious, almost from start to finish. And again, how much of this is the Magic needing to gel? How much of this is learning their system? I think there's a portion of that at play here. However, they were down by 33 points, I think, at one point in that game, and their fight wasn't where it needed to be at all. Now, that's what was troubling.
It's especially surprising with a team that you'd think was anxious to prove itself out of the gate.
Correct, and in the fourth quarter of the Cavaliers game, a game in which they were getting blown out, they showed signs of life. They cut it down to 3 points. They cut down the deficit to 3 points, which, for Magic fans, I would imagine was very encouraging to show that this team actually had a heartbeat, and they have shown that in the one game in one quarter, the last 5 quarters. So. They certainly are going to need that, and they're probably going to need it tonight against DeMarcus Cousins' Sacramento Kings.
Now, you asked for Magic fans to send you some questions on Twitter, and we have some of those questions. We'll get to them here shortly. And if you're watching on Facebook, you can send us a question there, and we'll address it live here on the little program. So let's talk about maybe some pros about this game against 76ers. You talked about how they were able to rally, finally saw some offensive production out of Serge Ibaka, 21 points in that game, a pair of blocked shots, looked a little better defensively than he did early on. And you know, one of the silver linings of this season so far is Nick Vucevic has been pretty impressive for the most part this season, 24-14 against the Sixers. And it's kind of strange how entering the season it was the idea that Ibaka, Biyombo were going to come in and push Vucevic, who really had been the team's most consistent player and has been again.
For most of the early part of the season, now Game 4 was his best game by far, the game against Philly, but he has been uneven like the entire team this early this season. His mid-range shot, which is one of the strengths of his game, has been off. Now against Philly, it was on. He was superb against Philly, 24 points, 14 rebounds. game highs. Joel Embiid, by the way, looked really good. Really good. And maybe the Magic lose that game if Embiid hadn't been on a minutes restriction.
Sure.
But you asked me, were there any positive points to that game? Yes, there were. There were certain winning plays that occurred there that I thought, well, certainly the Magic hope are at least telling winning plays. Aaron Gordon deflecting a lob to Rashawn Holmes at the rim that started a fast break, which ended in a extra pass by Evan Fournier to Ibaka, who was trailing. So in a way, the fast break had 2 winning plays. Bismack Biyombo cutting off a driving lane for Embiid, which set up the key steal by Elfrid Payton. Elfrid Payton scoring double-digit points, having double-digit assists. So there were certainly some positives, but again, as you say, with validity, Charles, as you always say, because you're a very bright young man. There are a lot of warning signs too.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into the Twitter questions. I want to begin with a couple. We got 2 really on the same topic here. First off, this is from Hubert Gowronski. How do you think I did on that, Josh? Pretty good?
Well, I have to check my glasses here because I'm as blind as a bat from here to our monitor.
Hubert asked, why are the Magic the most
Hubert
clunky,
Gowronski. Why is this so difficult for you to pronounce? You're supposed to be our professional here.
Doing the best I can, Josh.
Okay,
all right,
well.
So why are the Magic the most clunky, out-of-whack team in the NBA? And why can't Mario Hezonja figure it out? Let's go ahead and look at the next question, too, if we can, Sean, because I think they're both kind of related. Yeah, there it is. Pretty simple. It's from @Barbecue Chicken Madness. Like that name. What's wrong with Hezonja? I think that's a pretty common question right now. Second-year player Mario Hezonja. He really looks lost out on the court. Doesn't seem to have confidence. Hesitant with the ball. Your thoughts on what's going on with Hezonja right now?
Well, I think he's learning Frank Vogel's system without question. I don't think there's any doubt about that. We discussed this about 2 weeks ago. He spent he's in playing shape. He's ready to go physically. He spent the whole summer playing for the Croatian national team. Now, I've said this before. Teams typically like their young guys, specifically the guys who they want to develop, to be close to home during the off season, or at least being selfish with their own games. They don't want anyone to be selfish during the season, but that's what the off season is for, to put up 1,000 shots a game, to work on specific drills that you just don't have time. Yeah, smooth.
Sorry.
By the way.
Sorry. Go ahead, Josh.
Lucky I'm not doing that because I'd be screwing up this podcast royally if I were in your seat. Anyway, where were we? Talking about Mario, right?
Hezonja.
So I think it does not help that he couldn't be selfish over the summer. There's no question in my mind that he was certainly hurt by having a new coach come in. I think, for example, Elfrid Payton has to learn an entirely new system. That's not beneficial to a young guy like Elfrid either. But in Mario's case, he already had a huge learning curve to the NBA, and once he started to feel comfortable under Scott Skiles a little bit, the Magic lost Skiles and now have brought in Frank Vogel, who's a very good coach but has a different system and wants different things. So I think that's a large part of some of his on-court difficulties, and yet at the same time, the Magic want to see improvement from Mario, from Elfrid Payton, from Aaron Gordon, from even Vucevic in certain areas, even Evan Fournier in certain areas. The young players have to develop, and that's one area where the Magic really have not had a great deal of success during this rebuild.
It doesn't feel like Hezonja is playing instinctually. It feels like every time on offense when he has the ball, it feels like he's overthinking it. I saw in the 76ers game there was a time where he caught the ball on the wing, wide open, hesitated to shoot, and passed to someone in the corner. You just think that's part of him not being completely comfortable yet in this system. It's robbed him of his instincts or his thoughts to just attack or do something immediately as soon as he touches the ball.
I think that's certainly a part of it, and I think his confidence has taken a small hit as a result. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you have stated in one paragraph, one perfectly concise paragraph, what takes me 3 or 4 paragraphs to say.
I'm not sure that was concise, but
again, you are a professional, and but you can see And apparently
He
I am
thrives on making me uncomfortable.
what are intended as compliments
Thank you, Josh.
shouldn't make
Thank you,
you
Josh.
as uncomfortable. I mean, I don't need glasses on to see that you're turning beet red, so I apologize. No, you could see the ability in Mario Hezonja every time he takes shots.
Yeah.
In pregame or in practice. The Magic have to find a way to harness that natural ability, and it would be nice to see him beat opponents off the dribble. You know,
Yeah.
he hasn't shown that during his NBA career yet. I think he's certainly got the ability for it. He's athletic enough. It's up to now Frank Vogel. It's now on Frank Vogel to ensure that Mario Hezonja and the other young players not only meet their potential but exceed it.
Well,
They have to do it, or this team is not going to go very far.
yeah. Yeah, and well, speaking of uncomfortable, this is kind of an uncomfortable topic, but fans have been pretty vocal, I think.
Got my hairline. Got my hairline?
No. Let's not get people started
Yeah,
talking about hairlines. I don't want to be involved in that conversation either. But
Your hairline's fine.
the
It's not.
the Magic fans have been frustrated with the construction of this team, and I think in the off season there were things that were done that seemed a little odd, but I think a lot of people wanted to wait and see how the early part of the season went. So just a couple of games in, you already have a lot of fans upset, wondering if Rob Hennigan's job is on the line already at this point. Seems kind of ridiculous to talk about it, but you look at Tobias Harris when the Magic played at Detroit. Seems to be doing pretty well. 21 points a game early on in this season. When the Magic played the 76ers, you got a chance to see Dario Saric play, who looks like a pretty special player. The Magic had drafted Saric, traded for Elfrid Payton. A couple of other moves here and there that seem a little questionable, and if the Magic continue to struggle, people are going to point to it more and more. So we'll just go straight to Twitter, which was one of the more popular questions we were getting. Do you think Hennigan is gone in December or January? I know the coaches sometimes get fired midseason, but the topic being about the GM in December, January, maybe seems premature. And Sean, there's another one in there that we saw where, why isn't the GM of the Magic fired yet? So people are frustrated with this team. You're connected with this team. You travel with the team. I'd just love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, who Kevin Duffy, I think, asked, is Rob Hennigan going to get fired in December or January? The answer to that question is no. This is, however, an important season to show improvement. Mm-hmm. Arguably, they have a coach in place who has won everywhere throughout his time in Indiana. You can't blame this on coaching. This has got to be the year the Magic show improvement, and if they don't, what will Alex Martins and the DeVos family decide to do? Fair question. Certainly, that is a topic of discussion in some NBA circles. What's the direction of the Magic right now? They're 5 games in. They're 4 games in. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. Terrible arithmetic on my part, but
1 and 3.
Yeah, so they are 4 games in right now. It's certainly they're not gonna make a snap judgment in December or January. I think they'll let the year play out and determine where the franchise stands. Now, no one has said, "Oh, this is a make or break year." No one within the organization has said this is a make or break year for Rob Hennigan. But I'm saying, Josh Robbins, is saying that, yes, I think that they will evaluate the status of the franchise and the basketball operations department by the end of the year. And they need to show improvement. And some of these moves that have been made, trading away Tobias Harris for what seemed at the time like a very low return, acquiring Serge Ibaka, who had been a 3-time first-team All-NBA player from the 11-12 season through the 13-14 season. Well, can he be that anymore? Even the deal. You're right. The deal to trade up to get Elfrid Payton, while not as terrible a cost as was made by Philadelphia columnists, is a trade that will eventually need to be evaluated.
Yeah.
So yes, all this has got to be taken into consideration. So, Kevin asked the question. No, not in December or January, but at some point, I think certainly in late April or mid-April, if the Magic don't make the playoffs, this is a topic that Alex Martins very well could consider.
Now, the backcourt has been a topic with this team all year already. People curious to see how it's going to play out. Perceived lack of scoring from the perimeter. Elfrid Payton, Evan Fournier, Mario Hezonja. But there's a player that I think a lot of Magic fans are anxious to see if he can contribute at all, and that's Jodie Meeks. We got a question on Twitter about Jodie Meeks for the show here. We'll go to that. It says, does Mario have enough time to find his stroke before Meeks takes his minutes? I think they're assuming that the return of Jodie Meeks from injury could impact Hezonja's playing time. And Reckless Cognition also wants to know, what is the ETA for Meeks? It's something I know you've been following, expecting him to make a return this month. Is that still on track?
Well, there had been some, for Magic fans, Reckless, and forgot the first individual who was kind enough to ask us questions, and we should be thanking.
My apologies for not naming the people in the
Hubert,
last one.
Thank you. Kevin, thank you for your question. Barbecue Chicken, thank you. What was this? Oh, this is
about Meeks'
Mario
return.
and okay, so that serious question. He's coming back from a second surgery in July. First, he had a surgery in October 2015 to repair a fractured bone inside his foot, the fifth metatarsal in his right foot, a Jones fracture, an injury all too common to basketball players. He had it surgically corrected. He needed another procedure to stabilize the bone, to have a bone graft, a larger screw, in mid-July. Some welcome news for the Magic in that regard. He's been shooting baskets. He's been doing, he was shooting floaters yesterday. He was taking jump shots yesterday. When he was practicing his floaters, he was doing some very sharp changes of direction, not quite a Euro step, but pretty close. Wasn't attempting to dunk, but he was shooting jumpers. So that's a clear sign of progress. Initially, the Magic plan thought that he'd be back sometime in November. Right now, I would say the earliest is probably late November, but things are starting to look good for him. And that said, I mean, he hasn't been running for maybe 8 of the last 12 months. So when he does return, I don't think he'll be anywhere near what he can be. I don't think his wind is going to be very high. So, I expect him to not necessarily have a minutes restriction, but maybe in practice, in reality, it will work as a minutes restriction in the sense that if you're gasping for air all the time, like me trying to climb 4 flights of stairs, you're going to take it easy.
It's likely not going to really impact Hezonja all that much in terms of playing time. If anyone, it probably eliminates Wilcox from any sort of rotation, right? I mean, that will be interesting. Oh, I'm sorry for interrupting. No, it's okay.
No, it's not okay.
I was done.
It's rude.
I was done.
Well, I think it would probably eliminate C.J. Wilcox from the rotation, but it could eat into Mario Hezonja's time, yes, because Jodie Meeks can shoot, and you can see that even now with his form, with his success on some of these jumpers in the gym, contested by no one, I should say, but they brought him in hoping that he would be a good piece to this mix.
Does Jodie Meeks really help this backcourt defensively? I think that has been the one thing with this backcourt so far that looks frightening, I think, is that Elfrid Payton and Evan Fournier have really, really struggled to keep defenders in front of them, and that's maybe the biggest problem the team has had so far.
I agree. And you know your basketball. And containing the perimeter is a severe problem. This morning, it's apropos that you make that comment that the Magic rank 27th in the league in defensive rebounding percentage. They only collect 74% of all potential defensive rebounds that are available to them. Well, I asked Frank Vogel about that this morning at shoot-around, and Vogel answered, that starts with containment, and that if a guy is beating one of your perimeter defenders off the dribble, he's forcing a big to come on over and confront him to close off a driving lane, and when the guy launches a shot, the big isn't there to collect the rebound.
Yeah.
Big problem. And tonight, it could be a tremendously big problem with super fast point guard Ty Lawson running the Kings offense, and DeMarcus Cousins, the most talented center in the league by far. out there.
Talking more about this problem, this was something that Scott Skiles talked about very regularly last year. His disappointment in Elfrid Payton's performance defensively, stopping dribble penetration. Victor Oladipo was gone. Perhaps the best on-ball defender that the team had was traded. And there really isn't a Band-Aid for this problem. Evan Fournier is he's gonna remain the starter at the 2. I don't see that changing. Mario Hezonja isn't an upgrade defensively. Undersized DJ Augustine is not gonna change this very much either as a backup point guard. There's no one on this team in the backcourt that I think is considered a top-end defensive player in the backcourt, and that seems concerning long term, especially how you've seen it play out in the first 4 games.
All true, except I would say that Evan Fournier is a better defender than he is perceived to be. As a matter of fact, Scott Skiles used to say he was their second best defender last year.
And last year took on some big assignments.
Yeah, well, he actually literally. I mean, he played small forward. He played people who were much larger than he is,
right?
And fared pretty well. Could have been a lot worse. Not only not bad, but he actually fared well at times. So I think he has the capability to be a good defender. The question here is Elfrid Payton. Magic officials say, and including Frank Vogel, say he's got the potential to be an elite level defender at point guard. When will that come to fruition? It hasn't yet. It needs to.
It will be interesting over these next few games how things start to play out. I am curious, and I hate to be super negative at this point, but I feel like I have to address some of the things that I think concern Magic fans entering the season. And defense in the backcourt was one of them, but lack of scoring from the perimeter was a question a lot of people had looking at this roster. Is Serge Ibaka in a decline? Is he still the same player that we saw in Oklahoma City a couple of years ago? Can Aaron Gordon play the 3? Elfrid Payton's shooting ability from the perimeter, a logjam in the post with a lot of bigs added in Ibaka and Biyombo, and what that means for rotation. All these things were questions in the offseason, and all of those questions look pretty legitimate right now.
They were always legitimate, except for the logjam. The one thing I don't agree with is the logjam at center, which always operated under the incorrect assumption that just because you pay Bismack Biyombo $17 million a year that he's necessarily going to be the starter. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
And it also ignores the fact that the salary cap is almost 100% higher than it was just several years ago.
Right.
So $17 million a year is a product of the larger cap. Had Nick Vucevic been a free agent this past summer, he would be probably earning more than $17 million a year. And they need Vucevic's offense, as they desperately needed in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
So, but all the other questions that you listed were always valid and remain so, and perhaps are even more valid after games 1, 2, 3, and 4.
All right, well, I mentioned Ibaka there, and hasn't been phenomenal at this point. We have a question that we got from Twitter about Serge Ibaka. I'm trying to lighten the mood a little bit. Got kind of doom and gloom there. How soon, if at all, can Magic fans expect Ibaka to sign an extension? So maybe if you could explain how that works, and we know that he's going to be an unrestricted free agent this summer.
Well, that's correct. I don't envision anything occurring anytime, really, even this regular season. I think that the Magic and Ibaka himself need to see how the year goes. Right now, you're right. The first 2 games, it looked like Serge Ibaka's feet were crazy glued to the court, which is exactly the opposite of what he was able to do during his zenith in Oklahoma City when he made those 3 consecutive first-team All-NBA defensive teams. They need more. They need much more than that. They need him to be a rim protector coming off the weak side. They need him to collect rebounds. They need him to intimidate at the rim when he's near there. And he looked almost immobile at times in games 1 and 2. A
Which
severe
is
concern.
Some people warned coming in that Ibaka wasn't the same player. You have I don't want to jump into conspiracies, but there's questions about Ibaka's age, whether or not he's older than people believe he is, and if he's the same player anymore. Then there was a lot of people throwing out accusations and questions about Ibaka when the trade was made. His play to this point probably doesn't help argue against some of those points.
Well, those aren't really points, as they are conspiracy theories, which bring proof. Bring proof.
Yeah.
And has Josh Robbins had hair transplants? Well, no, I haven't. It's just, but
It's on. People are saying that on the internet, apparently.
oh, well, that really hurts my self-esteem. But he did play better in games 3 and 4. They were right off the bat in game 3. It looked like he had gotten the message. He was contesting shots. In game 4, he was better. But this is one of the essential questions of the season. What player is Serge Ibaka? Is he on the decline, or is he the player he was during his zenith in Oklahoma City? These questions have not been answered yet, but in games 1 and 2, he looked like he's in complete decline. In games 3 and 4, he showed promise.
So, semi-related to the Magic traded for Ibaka. They traded Victor Oladipo, Ersan Ilyasova, and Sabonis, the rookie. Domantas Sabonis,
yes.
The rookie draft pick this year. Some news, I guess, with those players. The Sixers traded the Thunder traded Ilyasova to the Sixers the other day, and also extended Victor Oladipo, something that I think the Magic were concerned about doing at a somewhat reasonable number.
What was the final number?
I think it was 4 years, 84.
About $21 million a year.
Which is more than Magic, I assume, wanted to pay. Anyways.
Yes, I think so. And for comparison's sake, they re-signed Fournier at 5 years with a player option for year 5 at $17 million per season. Is Victor Oladipo $4 million per season better than Evan Fournier? On offense, he is not. On defense, he could be. If Victor Oladipo develops into an all-star caliber scorer, an efficient scorer, then that decision will look terrible. Yeah. But they think that Evan Fournier, when paired next to Elfrid Payton, really changes certainly the shooting dynamic of the backcourt. It makes the backcourt offensively more efficient. Let's see what happens. I mean, I wish I could give a definitive answer whether it was a mistake or not.
It's a time will tell situation.
Well, it will, and part of it depends on Serge Ibaka, part of it depends on how Victor Oladipo does, and part of it depends on what kind of player Evan Fournier becomes.
Oladipo has a front row seat to the Russell Westbrook show right now, at least. I mean, it's pretty incredible what he's doing individually.
And, you really can't appreciate Russell Westbrook until you are sitting in the arena, preferably in the lower bowl, and see him with your own eyes, because he just operates at a speed and at a powerful speed that no one else plays with, except LeBron operates with power, but not with that level of speed. John Wall operates maybe at that speed, but not that level of power. To watch Russell Westbrook play is really a privilege if you appreciate good basketball.
Well, and you would think
he's
that
not efficient, but there's no one else in the game like him. Not anyone.
You would think that Oladipo would thrive next to Westbrook with all the attention that he demands. It's something he never had in Orlando. Usually, the defensive. Talk about this week. Tonight we have the Sacramento Kings in town. The Kings 2-3. Kings hoping to make the playoffs. It's kind of in a similar situation as the Magic. A team has been out of the playoff hunt but hopes to get in this season. Game starts at 7 o'clock, and as we've mentioned a couple of times here, DeMarcus Cousins, arguably the best big man in the NBA. The Magic might throw the three-headed monster at stopping him tonight.
Well, they're going to have to, and I think you were there for that Sacramento game at Amway Center last year. DeMarcus Cousins dominated that game. Dominated it, single-handedly dominated it, and he ran into almost no resistance except from Scott Skiles. Do you remember this? That 7 minutes and 11 seconds to go in the first quarter. There was a whistle. I think there was a technical foul on Tobias Harris, and or at least a common foul on Tobias Harris. Skiles said something to the referee, and DeMarcus Cousins chimed in to argue the Kings case. Well, Scott Skiles said, and I'm not going to try to do an imitation, but imagine this in, like, an angry growl, because this is in the middle of a game, saying, I'm not talking to you. When I'm talking to you, I'll let you know. He got a technical foul for that, but that was the most fight the Magic showed against DeMarcus Cousins that whole game.
Yeah.
They lost 97-91, and this game tonight could go exactly like that because
Rudy Gay has been playing well so far.
Rudy Gay is hitting 51.2% of his overall shots, which is very
high for Rudy Gay.
Very un-Rudy Gay-like.
Yeah.
So, and then Ty Lawson, if he's not at near peak level, he's going to be tough to contain. So this, if you were to ask me to offer a prediction, I think the Kings are going to win tonight. This is a dangerous game for the Magic, and they could if you didn't ask me for a prediction, you should have as the host. I think they'll be 1-4 after tonight.
And then the Wizards, the next game Saturday. Wizards off to a very rough start to the season as well, 0-3 right now,
Right.
but the Wizards have the Magic's number. I mean, beat the Magic all 4 times last year.
And I think the Magic's losing streak to Washington is what?
Like a dozen, right?
At least. I think if the Magic's 15-game losing streak against Cleveland isn't the longest current losing streak the Magic have, it's then definitely to Washington. And that's not a team that the Magic match up well against, obviously.
Magic will then go on the road to play the Bulls on Monday, back home to play the Timberwolves. Are the Timberwolves America's team now? Everyone loves the Timberwolves, expects them to be the darling of the NBA. They'll play the Timberwolves Wednesday at home, the only time they'll play Minnesota in the Amway Center this year.
2 and arguably 3, well, actually 4. There's certainly 3 extraordinarily intriguing young players there. Karl Anthony Towns, who's almost some people's long shot favorite for MVP, which is way too early to say that with him.
Yeah, agreed.
Especially in a league that has another Kentucky great, Anthony Davis,
Sure.
who I think is a true MVP,
real MVP candidate.
Yeah, you see, look at this chemistry between us. It's great. Who else? Oh, well, of course, Andrew Wiggins.
Mm-hmm. Zach LaVine has been playing well also.
Well, and Zach LaVine, but I wasn't even thinking. Zach LaVine was kind of the 4th person I was hedging. Thank you for kind of
Jumping
stealing
the gun.
No, Chris Dunn. And now it's all coached and really headed by Tom Thibodeau. So the games against the Timberwolves already were going to be fascinating to watch. But now that Thibodeau is in the mix, they're a team for Western Conference teams to fear going forward, because I'm not sure there's another team in the whole league, with the exception of Golden State, that has the level of raw talent that Minnesota has.
Let's try to end on a lighter note. We got one final Twitter question that you were asked that I saw come in.
No! What is this going to be?
I don't know. Let's see if Sean can get it up. There we go. All right, it's from Jabo at Jizzle J92. Okay. Josh,
Yeah, that's not so disconcerting.
What's the Magic retro jerseys for this season? Are they the retro white pinstripes? I don't know anything about Orlando Magic jersey choices. I'm hoping you do.
Well, we ought to get Paul Lucas of UniWatch here. Have you ever read that blog?
No, I haven't.
It's actually very entertaining. He doesn't. He's a savant, all about uniforms.
I'll have to check
Ask
that
him
out.
about socks, team socks. He'll have the answer for it. Maybe here on our telestrator, we will get the picture of the uniforms.
One
but
day.
If we don't,
Next time.
Okay, fair enough. Well, Magic they have a new uniform this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's got stars on it.
You like it?
No.
I like it.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's got gray in it. It's got gray and it's got stars in it. Does it have? No, it's sleeveless, right?
It is
Or it's
sleeveless, but it's not a tank.
Okay. So yes. So is it a retro jersey? No. Is there another jersey? Yes.
They ask about white pinstripes?
Well, I'm ignorant on that. I'm just ignorant. I don't know about a white pinstripe jersey. I think the grays, the sleeved grays, I think their pinstripes are whitish
I see.
or maybe a darker gray. I am clearly ignorant
Yes,
on
the
the
wrong
subject.
people
I
this question.
apologize. I apologize.
So you want to send him to what website
Well-
to find this out?
Well, the reality is, well, you could probably buy the new jerseys. I mean, that's why they have the new jerseys in the first place, to make you buy them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to list where to buy them. I'm not a salesman, except for why don't we have a title sponsor for this show yet?
Oh, I think it's pretty obvious why.
Well, thanks. Boy, that's mean.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
that's the new jersey.
Sean, the great Sean Pitts has bailed you and I out of our own.
You don't like that?
Our own crapulence, as they say.
You don't like that, Josh?
No, not really. I don't. I mean, no offense. I mean, look, people probably look at my getup right now and say, "Well, Josh looks terrible."
Well,
So,
it's a personal preference thing, but I like it.
well, that's great. I mean, maybe you have more disposable income than I have. Well, first of
I'm
all,
not
I
saying
wouldn't be
I'm gonna
buying
buy
any
one.
jersey anyway for any team, but
So when are they going to wear those? Tonight? They going to wear those tonight?
no, I don't know. I don't think so. That's news to me. Yeah, I don't know the answer, and now you're starting to make the quote-unquote talent look bad.
Sorry.
So, thank you.
Don't expect answers to jersey questions in the future.
Well,
Everything else Josh has
will,
it handled.
Well, I will do my research and be better prepared.
All right, so Josh predicts that the Orlando Magic will lose tonight to the Sacramento Kings.
That's my guess, yeah.
It's been a tough start for the Magic. 1-3 on the year. Tonight's game against Sacramento at 7 p.m. and then at home against the Wizards on Saturday. We do this live show, this live thing, every Thursday afternoon, so be sure to check us out every week. We'll continue to be here to talk about it when Josh isn't here. The Magic insider Brian Schmitz will be, and
right.
We're hoping that the Orlando Magic give us some positive things to talk about, so we don't have such a sad mood in here when we're talking about the team.
I'm not, well, first of all, you can't worry about whether a team wins or loses if you're covering them, and if you are worried about it, then you shouldn't be covering it.
It's fair enough, but
that's that simple. I mean, don't misunderstand me. I'm not wishing anyone ill or anything like that.
Sure.
But look, if you're there to report, you can't worry about that stuff.
I think for the overall
It's
mood
that
of this
simple.
program, some wins for the Magic would be, seems like it would be positive.
I think you're overly concerned. I mean, people
think
want
so?
to hear what we have to say. Thank you. And by the way, you should have thanked every single person who sent us questions.
And next time I will.
Well, that's all right. And yeah, so boy, I lost my entire train of thought. No,
You were lecturing me.
Yeah, I'm lecturing you. I'm lecturing you.
Get back to that.
Yeah, and I'm trying to keep it light anyway. Trying to inject a little bit of humor here to go with your superior presentation skills. I mean, you belong on Sports Center. I belong in behind a keyboard, and so I'm trying to add something in addition to knowledge here, like comedy.
Lectures.
Well, lectures where they're needed.
Thanks, Josh.
Maybe you could teach me how to properly comb my hair. That would be useful. And you know your basketball. I mean, jokes aside, you know your basketball.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you're welcome.
We're wrapping up now. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Thursday.